Everyone else is moving ahead and you are behind. Like time is running out. But somehow you are not catching up. I'm not catching up. And that's one thing that you and I have to be able to identify the season that we are in. Because of that feeling, you start to force things to happen. You start forcing things that should not happen right now to begin to happen. And you force relationships, you force opportunities, you force decisions, trying to make something happen because doing nothing feels like failure. What if I told you that the real danger is not being left behind? The real danger is forcing a season that God has not released yet. That is the real danger. Let me say this to you. You're not behind, you're simply out of rhythm. Anytime you feel as if you're behind and other people are moving forward and you're somewhere stuck, you're just not understanding the rhythm. You're not understanding the season you are in. And when you mess up that rhythm, you start to damage the very season meant to prepare you. Every season that we are in, we find ourselves in, there is a reason for that season. Okay? So I want us to look at Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, to everything there is a season. To everything there is a season. A time for every purpose under heaven. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. Not some things, not certain people, everything. So you might be looking at somebody and you feel that the person is way ahead. Maybe that's the person's season. When the person was in their own season of waiting, you probably didn't notice them because they were somewhere quiet. But now that things are happening for them, you are looking at yourself. You're forgetting that the person had a season before. This is another season. So I am in a particular season now, and I'm going to have my own season. So everything has a season. So why are you panicking in yours? Why am I panicking in mine? Everything has a season. Tonight, I'm going to show you why rushing your season is spiritually dangerous. What actually happens when you force timing? The hidden work God is doing when nothing seems to move. And how to align yourself so you don't miss your moment. So those are the 4 key things we're going to be talking about this evening. Why rushing your season is spiritually dangerous. What actually happens when you force timing. The hidden work God is doing when nothing seems to move. And how to align yourself so you don't miss your moment. But listen carefully. You don't need speed. You just need alignment. That's what we need. When we're in various seasons, when we need supernatural speed, God gives it to us. When you think back to Elijah, when God gave him speed that he outran Ahab, there were seasons. There was a season of 3 years of drought. That was a season. Then when the season for the drought to be over came, then God spoke to him. And when he was talking to Ahab, he had to pray. See, these are seasons. But the minute Elijah said, I hear the sound of abundance of rain, he needed to do something. And then he now told Ahab, run, so that the rain will not overtake you. The hand of God came upon him and he received supernatural speed. You and I must be in alignment. Speed comes from God once the timing has come. The things that you feel that took so long to happen, the minute it's the timing, oh my God, you will suddenly notice that everything begins to happen speedily at the same time. Why do you think we force seasons? Let's be honest. Nobody wakes up and says, today, I want to ruin my destiny. I don't think so. I don't think anybody wakes up and says that. No. We rush because of pressure. We rush because of comparison. We rush because every other person seems to be moving ahead and we're behind. So number one, comparison. You see someone your age, married, successful, traveling, winning, and suddenly your life feels delayed. Suddenly. Before you saw that person, you were okay. Before you knew the person, what was happening in the person's life, you were very okay. But the minute you looked at the person and you saw, okay, success, married, children, traveling, winning, and this person was my classmate. This, my age mate. You feel life has delayed. But what you don't realize is this. You are comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. I'm using social media language right now. When you watch Instagram, when you're on Instagram, you see Instagram reels and you see all those highlights. You see people enjoying life. You see them demonstrating certain things. They didn't show you their behind the scenes. They didn't show you that. All you're seeing is now the highlight of when the things that they had been waiting for happened, and all of a sudden you start to compare yourself. The second reason why a lot of times people rush out of their time, rush out ahead of their timing, is fear of wasting time. All right, this here is anxiety, fear of wasting time. If I don't move now, I'm going to miss it. If I don't do something now, things will spoil. If I don't answer now, the opportunity won't come again. So you jump into things God never told you to enter. You jump into opportunities that God never told you were for you. But listen, let's look at Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 4. So Ecclesiastes 11, verse 4, it says, he who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the cloud will not reap. So when we begin to focus so much on timing, we're observing times, we're observing record, we're observing date, we're observing age, we're observing certain things. You find out that either you don't sow or you go ahead and try to reap when it is not time. Imagine if you planted something and there's timing for apple to germinate, there's timing for beans, there's timing for maize, depending on the plant. It's different, like when you have when a woman is pregnant 9 months. Can you imagine a woman that is pregnant, that is supposed to allow her baby to form, her baby to develop, but because she's so anxious, I think I've wasted time. After 2 months, 3 months, she said, oh yeah, open me up, I want to see, open me up. Yes, you can do a scan and all of that, but you're not meant to be doing that every time. That anxiety to do things ahead of time. So that's Ecclesiastes 11 verse 4. What it actually means is that you cannot control timing by panic. You can't. And some of us say, I'm just observing, I'm just watching. When you're just watching, it's just like a watched kettle does not boil. If you're boiling water and you're just standing there, you hear that is a proverb, that it just doesn't boil. So we're not meant to just stay and be observing, because we're observing time, we're observing age, we're observing this. We want to either rush or delay and all of that. We're meant to do things when we're meant to do them, and then wait for God's timing for the manifestation to happen. Number 3, we misunderstand waiting. We misunderstand waiting. You think waiting means nothing is happening. You think waiting means God forgot you. You think waiting means that you are stagnant. But waiting is not inactivity. When you read Isaiah 40 verse 31, it says that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. It says they will mount up with wings as eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and not faint. So you see, there is activity There is action. There are things going on while you're waiting. Now, think about a waiter in a restaurant. A waiter is waiting on somebody. So when it's time for you to wait, you're not actually meant to be inactive. You're meant to be waiting, doing something, serving the Lord, doing whatever it is that you need to be doing at that time. Waiting is preparation for the season that will unfold. But meanwhile, during that time of waiting, I am doing something. I'm running the race. I'm fulfilling an assignment. I'm doing whatever it is that God has told me to do. So those are things that we need to understand, that we don't rush out because of comparison. We don't rush out because we don't want to wait. We're afraid of wasting time. We don't rush out because we misunderstand waiting. Okay, now what does God do in those seasons? What is it that happens in the season when we are waiting? We're going to read Habakkuk chapter 2. Okay, so let me shift your mindset. Let me shift, the way you're thinking, because right here changes everything. What is it that is meant to be happening when we are waiting? Habakkuk chapter 2. Now, if you read Habakkuk chapter 1, you will see that from verse 2, Habakkuk began to cry out to the Lord. Lord, are you not hearing me? Let me read Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 2. He said, oh Lord, how long shall I cry and you will not hear me? Even cry out to you violence and you will not save. He said, why do you show me iniquity and cause me to see trouble? For plundering and violence are before me. There is strife and contention arises. And then he began to talk about there is lawlessness. He began to talk about Babylonians. They were coming to, attack and all that. And the Lord was just quiet. He didn't understand why God could just be looking at things happening. So he complained and complained until evening. But it's as if after complaining for a while, in chapter 2, like how you come to yourself. So in chapter 2, I'll start from verse 1. He said, I will stand upon my watch. I will stand on my watch and set me on the rampant and watch to see what he will say to me and what I will answer when I am corrected or when I am reproved. So here he now takes, okay, you know what? Complaining has not got to me anywhere. Comparing has not got to me anywhere. You know what? I'm going to wait upon God. That's the thing. I'm going to pray. And I'm going to watch to see what he will say to me. What will God tell me? What will I answer when I'm corrected? Then verse 2, the Bible now records that the Lord spoke to him. He said that then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain on tables, that he may run who reads it. Verse 3 now says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it. For it shall surely, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Though it tarries, wait for it. It will surely come. I believe that a lot of times, the reason why a lot of us rush out or try to do things ourselves is that we think God has forgotten. We think that if we don't do something, then we're going to miss out. That's not the truth. When we rush it, we create more problem. We create a lot of problems. So now, it didn't say maybe, it didn't say if you're lucky, it said surely, it will surely come. That vision, it is going to speak. It will happen. What is God doing while you wait? Number one, he's building capacity. He's building strength. He's preparing us so that when that thing happens, when the thing you're believing God for comes to pass, you'll be able to handle it. You'll be able to keep it. There's no point making money and you can't keep the money and you can't multiply the money. There's no point getting married and you can't keep the marriage. So the Lord wants to build capacity. If God gives you too much too early, it will destroy you. If God gives you too much too early, you will out. Just think about a parent that the child is saying, I want a car, I want a car, I want a car, and I want a fast car, I want a fast car. And then the parent is out of love. You come and give an underage child or an immature child a gift that can wreck him, a gift that he can go and smash up and kill himself. So the Lord doesn't want to give you something too early because he doesn't want it to destroy you. So some blessings require what? Emotional maturity, spiritual depth, and discipline. You see a lot of marriages breaking up. They marry 1 year, 2 years, everything scatters. Why? They are not ready. You know, that waiting time is a time of preparation. We need emotional maturity. We need spiritual depth. We need discipline for the things that the Lord has for us, so that we can hold on to what the Lord has given us. You know, without that, the blessing becomes a burden. You see people that believed God for a marriage, believe God for children, you know, husband, wife, children, whatever. And then they have this same home, husband or wife, and they break up because they can't handle it. And some people are believing God for children, twins, triplets, and when the children come, the blessing becomes a burden. So when you are waiting, God is building capacity. Always remember that. He's preparing you so that you can handle the blessing. You can leverage the blessing. You can keep the blessing. You can enjoy the blessing when he does deliver them. Number 2, God is aligning people. There are conversations happening you cannot see. God is positioning destiny helpers all around you. When you are in waiting, there is work going on. Doors are opening quietly, positioning themselves. God is positioning people who you will meet at the right moment. If you rush ahead, you miss divine connections. I want to give us an instance in First Samuel chapter 30. We won't go there. You know the story of David at Ziklag. Now in chapter 29, if we remember clearly, David was running from King Saul. He was running from him, and he didn't have any other place to stay. He ran into the country. He ran into Philistine, and then he was serving the king there. So while David was in waiting, he was serving the king there, and the king trusted him. But then now when another king needed to fight against the Israelites, and this king wanted David to follow him, the other king said, no way, I don't trust him. I need him to go back. And David had left his home. He had left Ziklag, he and his men, to go and support in the battle. You know what happened? When the king said, David, you can't go with me, he felt bad, but he went home. Do you know that the timing it took for David to go back to Ziklag, if they had wasted time, maybe appealing to this guy, they would have missed out a major thing. I'm going to tell you what they would have missed out. By the time David got back to Ziklag, Ziklag had been destroyed. The Amalekites had come, they had burnt Ziklag with fire, taken away David's family, his followers, all of them, they wept. You know, they stayed and they cried, they wept till the Bible says that they could weep no more. And then what happened next? His own soldiers, his own military cantonment, his own ADCs talked about stoning him, because grief has a way of distorting the vision or mindset, and they wanted to stone David. David didn't bother. What did David do? David encouraged himself in the Lord. And once he encouraged himself in the Lord, what did he do next? He now asked that Abiathar should bring the ephod. He wanted to know what God had to say. See, a lot of times things are going wrong. We want to rush out and handle the situation. In David's own case, Ziklag had been burned, family had been taken, their property looted, but even though he was sad. Even though the people spoke of stoning him, he still calmed down and he sought what the Lord had to say. Now, the minute the Lord told him he should pursue, that he will overtake and without fail recover all, David and his men took off. And he told those that were tired, stay. It didn't bother him. He was not comparing. He was not going to force people to go with him when they were not ready to go with him. Now, but on the way, that's where I'm coming to now. On the way, they saw an Egyptian. This is, first of all, David is a Jew. His followers are Jews. The Egyptians were foreigners. The children of Israel had been delivered from Egypt. Remember, parents tell their children. So they had the story of the Egyptians. So he saw a man of color. And what did he do? And they knew he's trained these mighty men. They had the same principles. When they saw the young man, they stopped. Took the time out. You know what we call delay, what we call waste of time? No. They took the time out to take care of this Egyptian. Gave him food, gave him water. And David took the time to get to know him. David asked him, who are you? What is your name? When last did you ask the name of a person? When last did you look at the person you've been helping and ask them, what is your name? Sometimes we feel it's a waste of time. Why am I getting to know you? I don't need you for anything. You know? So what happens in the waiting time? God is aligning people. So, and this man, they saw him, and the guy now told him that he's an Egyptian, the servant of an Amalekite, and that 3 days ago, and that was the timing it took for David to return. If David had wasted time in returning, that guy would have died. And that was the person the Lord had positioned to tell him where the Amalekites were. And do you know what happened? The minute this guy said, you know what, my master, we raided a site, and so David said, where are they? The guy said, if you promise not to kill me, I will take you there. Imagine the amount of time David and his men saved because they waited, they stopped to help this guy. Something that anybody could have said is a waste of time. It wasn't a waste of time. They invested their time properly. They helped somebody. And that same person they helped, they did not realize that the Lord had positioned that person. So sometimes we miss divine opportunities. We miss divine connections. Let's calm down. Let's calm down and look out for the opportunities, the connections that the Lord is bringing our way. And so because of that young man, that young Egyptian, David and his men knew exactly where the Amalekites were. They hit them when they were busy enjoying, and David recovered all. Divine connections. May we not miss our divine connections in the name of Jesus. Then the third thing, the Lord is refining your character. During the waiting time, the Lord is refining your character, is refining my character. So let's look at James chapter 1, verse 3 to 4. During our waiting time, what is going on? James chapter 1, it said, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Some translations say so that you may be mature. Maturity of character. When our faith is being tested, when our faith is being tried, what happens? The testing of your faith produces patience. Patience is not punishment. It's preparation for permanence. Once we learn how to be patient, we're able to hold what God has given us. You know, when you read Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10 to 12, the Bible says that God is not unrighteous to forget your labor of love. You're not wasting your time when you're serving God. You're not wasting your time when you're serving in your family, in the ministry. Any good thing you're doing while you're waiting, you're not wasting your time. And then when the time comes, when the right timing comes, he said that we should be followers. We should not become slothful. We should not become tired. He said, but we should be followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. So patience is needed. Your faith must work with patience. And patience is waiting. But is waiting with the right attitude. Somebody can be impatiently waiting. But we are meant to wait patiently for the Lord. Okay? Now, what is the danger of forcing your season? We're going to look at that. What is the danger of forcing your season? But before we go to that danger of forcing your season, let's look at Hebrews chapter 10. I always like reading this when, I have the temptation to rush off. Maybe when I'm tired of waiting and it's like, oh my God, everything is moving, everybody's moving forward, things are moving on. If I don't do something, I'm going to miss out on this. So Hebrews chapter 10, and I'm going to read verse 35 to 38. It says, therefore, do not cast away your confidence, which has great reward, for you have need of patience, so that after you have done the will of God, you will receive the promise. For yet a little while, and he who is coming will come and not tarry. Now the just shall live by faith. But if anyone draws back, my soul has no him. Now when you read this in different translations, you find out that there is blessing for waiting. When you read Hebrews 11:6, it says that if you want to please God, it says without faith it is impossible to please God. He said, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So first of all, when we believe that he is, the Lord is pleased with us. And then there is a reward for having faith. Now the same way, there is a discipline for backsliding. There is a discipline for starting out with God and then turning back. So here it tells us that we shouldn't throw away our confidence. Every one of us, we've started out with the Lord. We started out a journey with the Lord. Whatever the journey is, don't get to somewhere and decide to throw away your confidence. Why? He said, because there is a great reward for depending on God, for trusting God, for holding on to him until you see what you are trusting him for. And he said, for we have need of patience. That after we've done the will of God, after we've done exactly what God said we should do, that means in that our waiting time, there is work to be done. There are things we should be doing. We should be doing whatever it is that God said we should do. And then after we've done it, we will receive the promise of God. The promise must come. It will surely come. And it says that for yet a little while, he who is coming will come. It will surely come. But it tells us here that we shall live by faith, and we should no drawing back on what you and the Lord have started. So now let's talk about what is the danger of forcing your season. Not just about turning back. What is the danger of going ahead to do what you're not supposed to do? What is the danger? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what happens when you refuse to wait. And we're going to use a case study. We're going to use King Saul as a case study to know what happens. We know what happened to Abraham and Sarah after the Lord told Abraham that he's going to have a son, and they waited. Actually, they waited quite a bit. They waited another 10 years, and Sarah felt as if this waiting is too much. Let her do something, and they did something. You know what has happened since then? He had an Ishmael before Isaac came, and he still had to let go of Ishmael, and the heartbreak and the issues that followed that. But let's look at, so we're going to read 1 Samuel chapter 13 from verse 5 all the way to 14. So it says, then the Philistines gathered together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude, when they came up and encamped in Michmash to the east of Beth-aven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in danger, for the people were distressed, then the people hid in caves, in thickets, in rocks, in holes, and in pits. And some of the Hebrews crossed over the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. Then he waited 7 days, according to the time set by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So Saul said, bring a burnt offering and peace offering here to me. And he offered the burnt offering. Now it happened as soon as he had finished presenting the burnt offering that Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, and he went that he might greet him. And Samuel said, what have you done? Saul said, when I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines were gathered together at Michmash, then I said, the Philistines will now come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. Therefore I felt compelled and offered a burnt offering. And Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be commander over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you. So you see something here, King Saul, normal human being, okay, there was a war coming, the Philistines, and he knew the pattern that before they go to any war, they have to seek God's face, okay? But he knew that he was supposed to wait for Prophet Samuel, and he waited the 7 days. So here is a man that you would say, okay, he did the basic, he did, but because he did not see the prophet, he decided to go ahead of himself. Think about it. Have you ever done that in your own life, where you've waited the 3 days God told you to wait, but when you've not gotten the go ahead, if you make the mistake of doing something you're not meant to do, there will be a big problem. Even a right decision, if it is made in the wrong timing, it becomes a wrong decision. Even the right assignment, if it is done out of context or done out of the right timing, it becomes a wrong decision. So here is King Saul. He probably didn't even see what he had done. The minute he finished giving the offering, it wasn't his job. Then there was a distinction between the king, the prophet, and the priest. So his role was not in any way to intermingle with the role of a prophet. In David's own time, David was a king, David was a priest, David was a prophet. Jesus was in the lineage of David. So David had a different covenant with the Lord. But King Saul, his job was meant for administration, ruling the people, leading the people. He had no basis, he had no right to go and give the burnt offering, even though it was a good thing. What he tried to do, it was not a quote a bad thing, but he did what he was not assigned to do. Have you ever done that? Done something that you were not assigned to do, but you meant well. He said the people were going from him, and the enemies were coming, so he went and did that. Now what happened? God can't work with this. God has taken away the kingdom. God instructed him, God gave him instructions, wait for the prophet. But because pressure built, people became restless. Time was passing. Saul thought, you know what, I need to do something. So he forced the sacrifice that only the prophet was meant to perform. Don't ever rush and do what you're not meant to do. Don't ever try to usurp anybody's role, whether it's your boss, whether it's your house, anybody in leadership. Don't ever take on a role that is not yours, except the Lord told you specifically to do it. The minute he offered, in that moment, he stepped out of his season. In fact, that was everything about his destiny changed. And so Prophet Samuel said, God has taken away the kingdom. And you say, what did he do now? It wasn't such a big thing. The way the Lord deals with seasons and timings and instructions, we have to understand that God is a God of order. So you and I must not step out of our season, must not step out in sync with God. We need to align. We need to be in alignment. When the prophet arrived, he said to him, "You don't foolishly." And from that day, Saul's kingdom began to fall. And we will see that in chapter 15, he now made another mistake. In fact, the season, his kingdom began to fail the minute he went out of season. The minute he stepped out of his season, things began to go wrong. And it culminated in chapter 15, where he didn't fully obey God to kill Agag, the king of Amalek. Now therefore heed the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he ambushed him on the way when he came out of Egypt. Now go and attack Amalek and utterly destroy they have, and do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, infant and nursing child, oxen and sheep, camel and donkey. You need to realize that this was a time of war. This is the way they lived in those days, and the way they took territories were physical war. And it was the Lord instructing. Okay, so that is so let's just fast forward a little bit. In verse 9, we know that let's read verse 9. But Saul and the people spared Agag. Agag was the king then, and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, the lambs, and all that was good, and were unwilling to utterly destroy them. But everything despised and worthless, and they utterly destroyed. Now the word of the Lord came to Samuel, saying, I greatly regret that I have set Saul as king, for he has turned back from following me and has not performed my commandments. God gave him instructions. Wait for the prophet. So already you could see a precedence of disobedience, a precedence of somebody who didn't value God's instructions. He could do it partially. He didn't really see the importance of certain things. And so already there was a pattern. But what did he do? When pressure built, people became restless. Time was passing. Saul thought, I need to do something. So he forced the sacrifice. Saul forced the sacrifice that only the prophet was meant to perform. So what did he lose? What did Saul lose? He lost his authority. He lost his peace. He lost his future legacy. We see that a demon began to worry him. So it wasn't just that he lost his authority. He lost it. He also lost his legacy. It's a legacy because as a king, his son Jonathan was supposed to be the next king, because they were moving in lineage like that. The kingship was taken from the line of King Saul and given to another line entirely. Another line entirely. Saul was a Benjamite, the lineage of Benjamin, while David was from Judah. So the lineage, the kingship moved from one entire lineage and went to another lineage and continues all the way. So he lost that. He also lost his peace. Like I said, a demon began to worry him. So all because he refused to stay in rhythm with God. So you and I, you don't want to lose your authority. You don't want to lose your peace. You don't want to lose your future legacy just because you can't wait. You and I, we must wait. We must allow the seasons God has appointed. So let this sink in. You can be chosen but still lose your place. It's a possibility, but God forbid. You and I, we are chosen. We don't want to lose our place. But anybody who is chosen can still lose their place because of forced timing. Don't force timing. Don't force anything to happen when it shouldn't happen. So you and I must be people who study, we kind of check patterns. We must understand divine rhythm. Everything God does has a rhythm. He has a process. He has a way he does things. When you just go and study even the prophets, study the epistles, you will see that there's a pattern in which God operated. Everything has a rhythm. Day and night, seed time and harvest. Everything has rhythm. Everything, the way God operates, there is rhythm. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11 says, He has made everything beautiful in His time. Not early, not late, in His time, right on time. And that's what we need to understand, that God has made it all beautiful in His time. And we need to leverage, we need to follow the timing of God. But here's the problem. We want harvest in planting season. There's season of sowing and reaping. But a lot of people want harvest in planting season. We want visibility in preparation season. You want to be out there when you're supposed to be in here at different seasons. There's a time to be visible. There's a time to be in preparation. We want results without process. It doesn't work. Any result anybody gets without process, that result will not last. And whenever we disrupt that rhythm, we delay our own selves. And then we face repercussions for it. Think about farming. If you dig up a seed every day to check if it is growing, you will kill that seed. If every day after you've planted a seed and you just keep checking, is it growing? What's going on? The seed will die. You kill it. That seed will not be able to grow. And that's what many of us are doing spiritually. We don't trust the process. We start out, but we keep interfering with it. We keep interfering with it. You have prayed, the Lord has spoken to you, the Lord has told you what to do, but from time to time you go dig it up. And when we keep doing that, we keep interfering with it, we will not see the full maturity of what we're trusting the Lord for. So how stop forcing our season? What do we need to do to stop forcing this? Is to stop, getting too impatient that will just end up stopping what God has already started. Let me give us something very, very practical. Something you can carry home with you tonight. What I would say your takeaway. One is that we need to return to quietness, stillness, quiet. Habakkuk said, I will stand at my watch. I will set me upon the tower. He said, you need to quiet the noise. You need to quiet the noise. Last week we talked about doom scrolling. We've talked about overstimulation. From time to time, you just need to get away from everything. It's not every voice that deserves your attention. It's not everything that is speaking that you need to listen to. Return to quietness. Seek God. Get quiet with the Lord. Number two, stay faithful in the small things. In those basic things, those little assignments, those basic things that the Lord said you should do, stay faithful. What you do now matters. If you're faithful in little, you will be faithful in much. This season is not empty. It's foundational. It's building a foundation so that when you build, the building will last. Number three, trust God's timing. We just have to know that God knows what He's doing. We have to believe that God is never late. He's always right on time. Even when it feels slow, even when it feels unclear, I'm not so sure what God is doing, because God knows what He's doing. God knows. We don't have to know it, or we don't have to understand it, or God knows what He is doing. Here is the truth. What God has for you cannot be stolen. Whatever God has planned for you, it can't be. The enemy, how is he going to steal it? Something that is in God's hand. He can't steal it. But the enemy can make you and I move away from it. So what is truly yours cannot pass you by. You're the only one who is a determinant factor whether you collect it or not. The enemy can't come and steal it. So all we need to do is to align with the Lord. Stick with Him. Do what He says we should do. Wait upon Him. Allow him to do what He says He is doing. Allow Him that when He starts something in your life, He wants to complete it. So if you're feeling behind, hear this clearly. Hear this very clearly. You are not late. You're just being prepared. Did you hear me? You are not late. You are not behind. You're being prepared. You're being built up. The Lord is building capacity. He's preparing you for the great thing that He has for you. So stop forcing it. Stop fighting your season. Stop anything that is taking you out of alignment. Because when your time comes, you don't have to push the doors open. They will open for you. The same way the doors opened for Peter when the angel came and delivered him from prison. The massive doors opened of their own accord. When is your timing? Supernatural speed will be yours. When it happens, it will all make sense. It will all make sense. You will now understand, oh my God, this scripture that says all things are working together for good. He said, and we know that all things are working together for good to those who love the Lord and to those who are called according to His purpose. You will know